ADHD is not an attention deficiency. ADHD is a dopamine deficiency. There's this thing I learned in psychology class that really helps me understand how serotonin and dopamine interact with the brain, as well as other chemicals. So if you imagine that there's parts of the brain that are connected by pathways like train circuits, or like an airport, you could imagine dopamine trying to get through the doors, onto the train or airplane, and then into the next entry section through those doors to the part of the brain that it's trying to access. Now, the way the brain normally works is that it's a certain shape, the doors, and the chemical. So when dopamine is in its proper shape, it can go through, like a key into a keyhole. This is why when they make man-made chemicals, like for medications, serotonin, dopamine, they mimic the shapes of the natural serotonin and dopamine so that it can fit through the keyhole still. This class discussed how certain drugs that people may overuse, including like stimulants or depressants like alcohol, will try to break through, as the shape of their dopamine chemical isn't quite the same as the shape that it needs, and so it will break the doorway and shove its way through. This is why you get really high rises and peaks of this happiness, and then really low crashes, because afterwards your brain's not able to properly process or accept its own natural chemicals because the entryway to the train is broken. Now let's go back to what I was saying about ADHD. We have a gene called the DRD4 gene. This is a dopamine gene. This is the part of the metaphor that I just told you that's the door that processes and the train system, otherwise known as a dopamine receptor. In ADHD, which in new studies and new cases we're realizing is highly, highly linked with the DRD4 gene, as well as a few other comorbidities. This means that even without taking anything to break your receptor comes pre-broken, which means only extreme or excessive amounts of this dopamine will make its way through the receptor, instead of the other way around in the metaphor that I had just told you. So while a natural, healthy working receptor would give you a spike of dopamine just for waking up, for doing your general self-care tasks like brushing your teeth, drinking water, for showering, for cleaning up your environment, getting your chores done, going to work, giving you little spikes of dopamine through your dopamine receptor to give you the energy and the motivation to continue about your day and to keep taking care of yourself. These are not quite big enough to force their way through the broken DRD4 receptor. So in ADHD, we often find ourselves waking up with no energy, no motivation. We often find it very hard to motivate us to do general self-care tasks or general cleaning, chores, work, unless we use a bigger, stronger outside motivation, like how video games have consistent reward systems. We're getting large, strong dopamine hits when we do something very accelerating, like playing very loud music or participating in very thrilling activities or very stimulating activities. This could be dancing all the time, singing all the time, roughhousing with other people all the time, trying to get more proprioceptive input, trying to get more